This is chapters 9 and 10. You're making observe, infer, wonder notes. We're thinking, how do the settlers respond to the challenges of their journey to the unknown? And today, we're looking for the emerging big ideas in these next two chapters. When we left Samuel and the other settlers, they had just arrived in Virginia. I'd been there for a few days, I think, and there's an attack by some of the natives that are living there, and a few men get shot. I think one man gets shot through the hands. Someone else gets shot through the torso, and Samuel has a terrible realization. He sees now that this land is not so free and open. This is Indian land, and they don't want us here. And what's worse, it seems that their bows and arrows are quicker, more accurate, and can shoot farther than our muskets. So he realizes he's going to be in trouble. Chapter 9. Now falleth every man to work. The council can drive the fort, the rest cut down trees to make place to pitch their tents, some provide clapboard to relade the ships, some make gardens, some nets, etc. This is from William Simmons from the Proceedings of the English Colony in Virginia. Have we crossed the wide ocean only to be shot by the natives the minute we set foot in Virginia? Oh, so I don't think they had been there a few days. It looks like they had just arrived. We servants gather around our mess pot, but no one eats much. James is crying, sniffling, with snot running into his mouth. Ugh. I want to go home, he whimpers. Richard keeps his eyes cast down. Reverend Hunt says we'd tell them about the Bible. He says softly, he didn't say they'd want to kill us. Henry slaps him on the back with a hard thwack. You can't believe everything you hear, my boy. Abram's wild eyes vibrating off to the side. I try not to look at him. So I think maybe Abrams, we can make an inference there. If Abrams' wild eyes vibrating, like that's not a normal thing. Maybe Abrams kind of nervous about the Indian attack too. After supper, I go to find Captain Smith. He's sitting with his quill and paper, writing. Now he can add that we have finally landed in Virginia, but that the natives do not want us here. I stand waiting quietly. He finishes filling a page, blots the ink carefully, then looks up at me. Yes, Samuel? Sir, how will we make a settlement if this is Indian land? Will we have a war? He pats a barrel next to him and bids me to sit down. The men who came back to England from the Roanoke colony wrote about the Virginia Indians. They are interested in trade, and we have brought the things they prize: copper, metal tools, glass beads, needles, mirrors, and such. It will be a delicate balance, but if we can find a piece of land they're not using, and come to them in peace with goods to trade, I believe we can settle here without a war. He scratches his head, thinking, we must do it without a war. There are many more of them than there are of us. That night as we bed down, I feel the rocking of the ship. I try to imagine that we are still out at sea rather than anchored near the strange new land of Virginia. Oh, so they're not even technically on the land yet. They're still on the ship, anchored. I try to imagine that we are still out at sea rather than anchored near this strange new land of Virginia. Okay. I wonder if Colin and the other boys at the orphanage were right, that Richard and Reverend Hunt and I will all die here. Is that foreshadowing? There is a box that we carried with us that was not to be opened until we reached Virginia. It contains the names of the men chosen by the Virginia Company to be our leaders and directions for us from the Virginia Company. Captain Newport gathers the other ship captains and high-ranking gentlemen on the Susan Constant and opens the box. As he reads out the names, there are no surprises. The men on our council will be Edward Maria Wingfield, John Ratcliffe, Christopher Newport, Bartholomew Gosnold, John Martin, and George Kendall. But when he reads the last name on the list, it causes a big ruckus. That name is John Smith. "He's still under arrest," Master Wingfield objects. "The fact that he is out of chains does not mean his name has been cleared." "He's a criminal," Captain Ratcliffe declares. They raise such a fuss that Captain Smith is not allowed to become a council member. I think Captain Smith would make a better leader than most of the men on the council, but what I think does not matter. Captain Smith seems determined to stay out of trouble, just as I am, and he accepts the council's decision without a fight. To me, in private, he says, "You will see how quickly they will be begging me for help and advice." Captain Newport reads more of the orders from the Virginia Company. "Be careful in choosing a site for the settlement. Go up the river where you can keep a lookout so the Spanish cannot mount a surprise attack. Take care not to offend the Virginia natives, and begin trading with them for food right away. Do not write letters home that say anything bad about the New World. People in England must not hear a single thing that would discourage them from coming to Virginia." A few carpenters and sailors go on shore to put together the shallop, a small boat meant for exploring that we brought with us in pieces. Then a group of gentlemen go off to search for a place for us to settle. The reports they come back with are encouraging. They have met lots of natives and have been welcomed into their villages, invited to eat with them and watch their dances. They say we do not need to fear the natives. When I look at Captain Archer's bandaged hands, I hope they're right. They're also mapping the land and water. They say they have found a point of land with deep water all around and named it Point Comfort. They have planted a tall cross at the mouth of the bay where we first landed and named the place Cape Henry. The only discouraging news is that they have seen no sign of survivors from the Roanoke colony. Then finally, on May 13, 1607, 17 days after we first landed in Virginia, our explorers bring us the news we have been waiting for. They have chosen a place for us to settle. It's a place where the river is deep, close to shore, so it will be easy to moor our ships to trees. It's got fresh water from the river, rabbits, squirrels, birds, mussels, oysters, fish, crabs, strawberries, and mulberries. It's safe from the natives because there are none living nearby. It will also be safe from the Spanish because it's on a peninsula and we'll be able to see any approaching Spanish ships for miles down the river. They've named the river the James in honor of King James of England, and our settlement will be called Jamestown. The council votes and selects Master Wingfield as our first president. We sail upstream and moor the ships outside our chosen site. They seem small, bobbing in the river beneath towering old trees. Their paint of blue, maroon, and yellow, so rich when we began this journey, is now faded and chipped. They have weathered nearly 5 months at sea, and they show it. As the sun sets, I gaze at what will become our new home. There are high bluffs just upstream, but our site has a sandy shoreline along the river. The trees wave their branches in the breeze, and a huge gray bird circles, calling out his objection to our presence. We bed down for one last night on the Susan Constant. I lie awake most of the night, excited, a bit scared, wondering, waiting for the first rooster crow to signal time to go ashore. The morning of May 14, even Richard is up and ready before sunrise. I dress quickly and go up on deck to help load the longboat. We pile in as many men and goods as we can, and then the sailors take the oars and row to shore. When it is my turn, I ride with several of the common men and most of the chicken crates. We unload the crates and set the chickens free to peck around in this new world. I wander off a bit before anyone can give me my next task to do. I go to a little way I go a little way into the forest to look around. The trees are so tall, I feel as if I'm in a cathedral. I breathe in the rich smell of the damp earth. The leaves are a bright early spring green, and sprinkled along the ground are tiny flowers of white, yellow, and violet. Butterflies and dragonflies add to the riot of color. I am either in a cathedral or in paradise, I think. That was some good imagery in that paragraph. Captain Smith finds me and hands me a straw hat and a hatchet and tells me tells me to get to work. We will begin felling the smaller trees in order to make room for our tents and gardens. James and Richard are assigned to work alongside me. My inclination is to work on my own and ignore them, but would it be so hard to work with them, I wonder, to cooperate? Better than being chained up by Captain Smith again with no slop bucket nearby. I decided to give it a try. I see that it would be best to have one boy bend a sapling over, another boy chop it at its base with strong downward strokes, and the third boy drag the saplings into a brush pile. I clear my throat. Do you want to work together on this? I ask them. I explain my idea. Richard eyes me warily. Don't let him bend a sapling for you, he warns James. He'll let it go and make it snap into your face. I feel like punching Richard, but I know what that will get me. I stomp off to work by myself. Over the next several days, we boys, servants, laborers, sailors, carpenters, and soldiers work as hard as mules. We set up the tents and bring all the bedding ashore from the ships. We dig up the ground and plant the seed that we've brought back with us from England. We try string and knots to make nets and put the nets in the river to catch fish. We gather mussels, oysters, crabs, and bring them to the cook. We lug buckets of water from the river for cooking and washing and drinking. We fell some of the big trees and split the logs long ways into planks, making clapboards. We load the clapboards onto the ship so they could be taken back to England to build English houses. We also dig up sassafras root to ship back to England. President Wingfield says it will sell at a very good price because it is used to make medicines. I am so tired by the end of each day that sometimes I fall into bed without bothering to take off my shoes. The days are warm and the nights cool, with the constant sounds of insects and tree frogs lulling us to sleep. Some of the gentlemen pitch in and work hard, but most of them just take turns standing guard, their muskets ready, with slow matches smoking. For several days it seems as if we are all alone in the Virginia wilderness. Then one day I look up from my hoeing and freeze, afraid to move or even cry out. Two native men come walking through the forest, quiet as deer. They each have a long bow slung over one shoulder. Halt! Shouts one of our gentlemen guards. The Indian men keep coming, and I see our guards prepare to fire their muskets. Wengapo! One of the native men calls out. Wengapo? Captain Smith has told me this is their greeting, and it means my beloved friend. The Indians hold up baskets, showing us that they have brought us something. They both smile. They are tall, sturdy men with broad, flat noses and wide lips. For clothing, they wear only a breechcloth, like an apron, and their faces and shoulders are oiled with something that gives their skin a deep reddish color. Just like Richard heard from the sailors, their hair, jet black, is shaved close on on the right side of their heads and grows long past their shoulders on the left side, with a ridge of short hair down the middle. The long side has decorations. One man has shells, and the other has the whole wing of a bird dangling from his hair. Our guards approach them, still carrying their muskets. The taller of the two Indian points to the muskets, then to his longbow. He lays his bow on the ground, motioning our guards to do the same. I see the gentlemen hesitate, but they lay down their arms. We gather around the baskets and find red ripe strawberries, purple mulberries, and round loaves of bread made from some kind of coarse meal. It all smells wonderful. Captain Smith joins us and begins to converse with the men, using his hands and words from their language. He gives them glass beads and copper in return for the food they have brought. One of the native men sees me eyeing the bread and he laughs. He breaks off a piece, hands it to me, and nods as if saying, "Go ahead, eat it." I say, "Thank you," even though I know he doesn't understand. The bread is delicious. After that, the natives come to us nearly every day, sometimes 2 men, sometimes 3. They call out, "Wengapo," when they approach our settlement and always bring us baskets of food. The natives are happy with the glass beads and copper we give them. Captain Smith explains to me how copper is rare and precious to them, so that it is like gold to the English. And they have no means to make glass, so the beads, with their bright colors, are to them like rubies, emeralds, and diamonds are to the English. At first I thought the Indians were strange to be willing to trade so much food for a few glass beads, but now I see that it is they are trading strawberries for rubies and corn for diamonds. One day Captain Smith surprises us. "I believe the savages are spying on us," he says. "I have watched the way they look around when they are here. I think they're counting our men, seeing where our tents are located, and plotting an attack. We have invaded their land, and I believe they will fight us to get it back. We must build a palisade to protect the settlement." "Nonsense," declares President Wingfield. "You see how friendly they are. If we build a palisade, it will look like as if we are their enemies. We will build no fortification." Captain Smith grumbles, but there is no arguing with President Wingfield. And I think that President Wingfield is right. The Indians have been friendly and welcoming to us. Captain Smith's suspicion runs like poison throughout the settlement. What if the natives are spying on us? What if they are planning an attack? How will we protect ourselves with no palisades? The Virginia Company has provided our men with extra weapons and armor. In England, commoners do not carry weapons, but here almost everyone has them. Still, when the weapons and armor were being issued, by the time they got to the laborers and servants, they ran out. Some of us have no protection at all. Those who have armor begin wearing it all day, even when it is hot. Anyone who has a sword or a musket keeps it at his side. Those of us who have no weapons discuss the merits of protective techniques, like hiding under a mattress. "Their arrows will go right through a mattress, you fool." "No, they won't. The straw will stop them." "Yes, they will go right through." "Won't." "Will," and so on. On a day filled with bright, hot sunshine, I'm digging up a plot, getting it ready to plant more wheat. James arrives with 2 buckets of water hanging from either end of a yoke balanced across his shoulders. He lowers the yoke and sets the buckets on the ground so I can drink. I take a ladle full, then spit it out. "It's salty," I complain. I glare at him. Has he done this on purpose, just to spot me? But he flinches as if I might hit him, and I see the innocent look in his eyes. "High tide," he says quickly. "It hasn't rained for a while, and the river mixes with the sea water when the tide is up. It'll be better when the tide goes out, or it rains." That's what Mr. Percy said. I take another swallow of the salty water, but it only makes me more thirsty. "Take it away," I say angrily. James slinks off. Reverend Hunt has seen our interaction. He comes over to talk to me. "Samuel, that poor child is unwanted by his father and despised by his stepmother. You should be able to find more kindness in your heart for him." I hang my head. I know Reverend Hunt is right, but I've been too tired and too thirsty to think about being kind. That night in our tent there is more discussion about an Indian attack. Henry and Abram talk of making armor for themselves out of wood. Richard and James discuss what they will do if an attack comes. "I'm going to run to the ships," says James. "I'll row the long boat out to the Susan Constant and hide in the 'tween deck. No arrows can get me there." You are a stupid, stupid boy, I think. I picture him running toward the ships with arrows flying all around and him with no armor. But I don't mock him or tell him he's stupid. I hope Reverend Hunt would appreciate my effort to be more kind. Chapter 10, Epigraph reads, "The people in all places kindly entreating us, dancing, and feasting us with strawberries, mulberries, bread, fish, and other their country provisions, whereof we had plenty, for which Captain Newport kindly requited their least favours with bells, pins, needles, beads, or glasses, which so contented them that his liberality made them follow us from place to place, and ever kindly to respect us." So they're saying everywhere they went, people treated them, they danced for them, they had feasts with them, gave them strawberries, mulberries, bread, fish, everything else that they had in this new world. And Captain Newport gave, in return, gave them bells, pins, needles, beads, or glasses. And it made them so happy that Captain Newport was so generous. The natives followed them everywhere they went, and they were so nice and respectful. Captain Newport goes off exploring with 8 or 9 gentlemen and a dozen sailors. They leave in the shallop, the small boat they put together here in Virginia, so that they'll be able to navigate the narrow river ways. He takes Captain Smith along to be an interpreter with the Indians. They go in search of gold and silver, and to find that new passage to the Orient everyone is talking about. They don't take many provisions with them. They say the last time they went exploring, each time they approached a village, the natives invited them in and fed them like kings. In Jamestown, we continue our work. We build a chapel for Reverend Hunt. We hang an old sail between 4 trees as an awning to protect us from sun and rain, and nail a bar between 2 trees for the pulpit. The walls are rails of wood that let the sunlight in, and the logs on the ground are our pews. Reverend Hunt calls us together for prayer, to thank the Almighty for all that we have, and to ask for protection. It still has not rained, and our wheat fields and gardens are wilting. We have no freshwater springs nearby, and so we are dependent on the river for water. Richard, James, and I spend the afternoon bringing buckets of water from the river to dump on the tiny new shoots. When I take a drink, I find it is still salty, and I wonder if we're killing the young plants rather than saving them. Richard and James keep to themselves, talking to each other, but not to me. I think about what Reverend Hunt said about being kinder to James, but if they treat me as if I'm not there, how can I be nicer? Maybe not yelling at them, not calling them names, not hitting them. Maybe that is enough. After supper, there is evening prayer in the new chapel. Reverend Hunt says we will have common prayer every morning and evening from now on, and 2 sermons on Sundays. By dusk, I am so tired I can hardly wait to go to bed. It is cloudy. There will be no moon tonight. I go off into the woods to relieve myself. I hear a rustling nearby and squint in the half light, but see nothing. Was it a deer? Maybe just a squirrel or a rabbit. As I walk back to camp, I hear the sound again and whip around. This time I see a form, something dark, slip behind a tree. The hair on the back of my neck bristles. But maybe it is just one of the other men relieving himself as well. "Who is there?" I call. No answer. I take a few steps toward the tree where the dark form slipped away. Wengapo! I call out. Silence. It must have been a deer, I think, and I go back to our camp. I creep into our tent and flop onto our bed. It is the same bed that the three of us shared on the ship, and by now the straw is rotting. Henry and Abram's bed is crammed into our small tent as well, and the two of them are still out playing cards with the sailors. Richard is already asleep, dead to the world, snoring softly. James stirs, and I know he's awake. I think about saying good night to him in an effort to be more kind, but I'm so tired, I just close my eyes and almost instantly asleep. It drags me out of a dream, a shriek like a demon's cry. At first I think I'm still dreaming, but there's another piercing cry, then another, and soon the forest is ringing with the noise as if all the demons in hell have entered our camp. I bolt upright. I can barely see more than shadows. An arrow pierces our tent and lodges in the ground next to me. James is sitting up. Richard lies there, sprawled. Has he already been shot? Get under the mattress, both of you, I shout. Are they still enough afraid of me to obey? I'm going to the ships, James cries. He crawls toward the tent flap. No, I yell. I lunge after him, grab his ankle, yank him back. Get under the mattress now, I order him. Richard groans. He's either waking up or dying. James wriggles out of my grasp, heads toward the tent opening. I grab him, harder this time. He turns and sinks his teeth into the flesh of my arm. Yow! I snatch my hand back. In that split second, James is out of the tent. Another arrow twangs past my ear. Richard is sitting up now, rubbing his eyes. I grasp at the edge of our mattress, dump Richard onto the ground, then pull the mattress on top of both of us. I can hear my own breathing, the blood pumping in my ears. Will the mattresses protect us? I remember the discussion. An arrow will fly right through a mattress, you idiot. No, it won't. Yes, it will. Won't, will. The argument rages in my own head. I expect any moment to feel the sharp pain of an arrow through my chest. All around us I hear footsteps, shouting, that god-awful shrieking, the twang of arrows being shot, men crying out in pain. Finally, I hear musket fire. Kill them, I think. But the twanging of arrows continues. I feel the impact as an arrow hits our mattress. I feel no pain. Richard, are you hit? I shout. Silence. Then after a moment, I don't think so. I want to yell at him that that's a stupid answer. He is either in pain or he is not. But if I am ever to be not going to be nicer to James and Richard, now is the time. Do you hurt anywhere? I ask. He moves as if testing his body. No, he says. Suddenly, there is a great boom. Someone has boarded one of the ships and is shooting the cannons. I hear a crackling and a crash, the cannonball hitting a tree. Then I hear the pounding of bare feet in retreat. Soon all is quiet. If someone made it to the ships safely, James could be there as well, I think. I feel sweaty and clammy under the mattress. I think we can come out now, I say to Richard. We both heave the mattress off of us. Outside, the men come around with torches, calling out, Who's wounded? Who is shot? We crawl out of the tent and find Abram lying there with an arrow in his side. I was just coming to bed, he says in a weak voice. I guess I didn't quite make it. Here, I call out. A man is wounded here. 2 men come and lift Abram. He groans. I'll get you to the doctor, they say. James, he went to the ships, I tell Richard. We make our way down the river bank where our ships are moored. Along the way, we step over arrows lying everywhere on the ground. Captain Gosnold comes up walking from the river. I realized he must be the one who fired the cannon. He is carrying something draped over his outstretched arms. In the gloom of the cloudy night, I can't see what it is. I hear running footsteps behind us. Captain, a man calls out, there are 17 wounded, no one dead. The running man holds a torch, and as he comes closer, the torchlight glints off of Captain Gosnold's armor and makes clear what he has in his arms. It is James, his thin body lying limp. No, Captain Gosnold says gravely. This one is dead. Poor James. If he'd only listened to Samuel, or if Samuel had only been trustworthy.